Have you ever stood before a magnificent fortress, its walls towering and impenetrable, and felt a deep aching curiosity not about the stones that built it, but about the priceless treasure it was designed to protect? Have you ever looked into the eyes of a woman you adore and seen a flicker of something? A silent scream from behind a glass wall, a longing to connect that is instantly swallowed by a reflex to retreat? That distance, that space she so fiercely guards, is not a void. It is not an emptiness. It is a story written in the invisible ink of past wounds, a map of a battlefield where her heart once learned that to be open was to be vulnerable, and to be vulnerable was to be devastated. Today, we are not just going to read that story, we are going to decode it. We are going to understand the 7 profound secrets her distance reveals, not to assign blame, but to unleash a tidal wave of understanding, compassion, and ultimately a breakthrough in connection that can heal generations. The first secret is that her distance is not a rejection of you, but a protection of a self that was once told it was too much or not enough. The second secret is that her independence is not a statement of not needing you, but a survival mechanism screaming that the only person she has ever been able to truly rely on is herself. The third secret is that her silence is not an empty space, but a thunderous conversation of fear happening entirely within her own mind. The fourth secret is that her criticism and nitpicking are not about your flaws, but a desperate, misguided strategy to create emotional distance before she gets too close and gets hurt. The fifth secret is that her fear of engulfment is not a desire to be alone forever, but a terrifying panic that in a relationship, her own identity, her very self, will be erased and consumed. The sixth secret is that her past is not just a memory. It is a living, breathing blueprint that dictates her present reactions, a ghost and machine of your relationship. And the seventh, the most powerful secret of all, is that her distance is a profound, albeit silent, call for love. It is a test she doesn't even know she's administering. A plea for someone to see the pain behind the walls and to care enough to not just knock, but to patiently, consistently, and faithfully wait at the gate. The first secret, the foundational truth that you must sear into your understanding, is that her distance is not a rejection of you, but a protection of a self that was once told it was too much or not enough. You have to get this. You have to feel this in your bones. Because if you misinterpret this one signal, you will spend your life taking personally something that was never about you in the first place. Imagine a young girl, full of life, her heart wide open, her emotions flowing freely. She runs to a parent for comfort, but is met with annoyance, told to stop crying, that she's being dramatic. She shares a triumph, a joy, and it's minimized or ignored. She expresses a need, and it's dismissed as an inconvenience. In that moment, a devastating equation is forged in the furnace of her soul. To be open with my needs is to be a burden. To express my full emotional self is to risk abandonment. My authentic self is not welcome here. So what does that brilliant, adaptive human organism do? It builds a defense system. It constructs a fortress around that soft, tender heart. The walls are made of distance, the moat is filled with self-reliance, and the drawbridge is pulled up at the first sign of emotional demand. When she feels you getting close, when the intimacy begins to build, it's not you she's pulling away from. It's the ghost of that past rejection. It's the echo of that old message that screams, danger, your heart is about to be hurt again. Her withdrawal is a preemptive strike against a pain she is certain is coming. She is not saying, I don't want you. She is screaming from behind the walls, I don't know how to let you in without risking the destruction of who I am. This is where most people fail in relationship with an avoidant woman. They see the wall and they start battering it down. They see the retreat and they charge forward. They see the silence and they fill it with louder demands for connection. And every time they do that, they prove her deepest fear correct, that your needs will consume her, that your presence is a threat to her very existence. The breakthrough, the absolute game changer, is to shift your approach. Instead of seeing her distance as a problem to be solved, see it as a wound to be understood. Your energy, your presence needs to communicate safety, not siege. It's about creating an atmosphere so devoid of pressure, so free from the demand for her to be different that her nervous system, for the first time in perhaps her entire life, can begin to stand down. It's in those moments of non-demanding presence that the bricks of the fortress, one by one, may begin to loosen. When she tests you by pulling away, and you respond not with panic or pursuit, but with a calm, steady, "I am here when you're ready," you are fundamentally rewriting that old painful equation. You are teaching her a new language, the language of secure attachment, where love does not mean loss of self and connection does not equal consumption. This is not a passive process. It is an active, relentless practice of empathy. It requires you to manage your own anxiety, to master your own triggers of rejection so that you can become the solid ground upon which she can, eventually, tentatively, choose to stand. The second secret is a powerful one that often masquerades as strength, but is born from a place of profound isolation. Her independence is not a statement of not needing, but a survival mechanism screaming that the only person she has ever been able to truly rely on is herself. Look at her. She is capable, she is resourceful, she pays her own bills, fixes her own problems, and navigates the world with a fierce self-sufficiency that can be both intimidating and alluring. And on the surface, it looks like empowerment. But peel back the layers, and you will find a different story. This isn't the independence of a woman who knows she can choose a partner. This is the hyper-independence of a child who learned that depending on anyone leads to disappointment, neglect, or betrayal. This was a necessary adaptation. When the people who were supposed to be her source of safety and support were unreliable, emotionally absent, or conditional in their love, her young mind made a vow. I will never need anyone like that again. I will become my own parent, my own provider, my own protector. That vow becomes the core of her operating system. So, in a relationship, when you offer to help, it's not received as a gift of love, it's perceived as a threat to her entire survival identity. If she accepts your help, she is betraying that inner child's vow. She is making herself vulnerable to the very dependency that once caused her so much pain. This is why she might reject your offers to fix things, why she might shut down when you try to take care of her when she's sick, why she insists on splitting the bill with a rigid precision. It feels to her like a matter of life and death. Her sense of self is tied to this "I can do it myself" narrative. To let you in, to rely on you, feels like she is erasing herself. She is terrified that if she leans on you even for a moment, she will lose the very skill that has kept her safe and functional her entire life. She fears she will become weak, needy, and ultimately trapped. Your role in transforming this dynamic is not to try and break her independence. That will only trigger a fiercer, more defensive form of it. Your role is to become so consistently, predictably reliable in the small things that you become a safe exception to her rule. You don't make grand, sweeping promises. You follow through on the tiny, seemingly insignificant ones. You say you'll call at 7 p.m., and you call at 7 p.m. You offer to pick up groceries, and you do it without being asked twice. You become a person of your word in a world where words have often failed her. This builds what psychologists call earned security. It's a slow, cumulative process where her nervous system begins to register on a subconscious level that you are a source of support, not a threat to her autonomy. You can also reframe help not as taking over, but as partnering. Instead of "let me do that for you," try "I'd love to do this with you." This allows her to maintain a sense of agency and control while still experiencing the benefits of connection and support. Celebrate her competence, but also create space for her to be soft. Let her know through your words and actions that her strength is admired, but her vulnerability is cherished, that it is safe to not have all the answers, to not be the one in charge all the time. You are offering her the greatest gift, the chance to finally, after a lifetime of vigilance, to rest. Let's dive into the third secret, a secret that causes more misunderstanding than almost any other. Her silence is not an empty space, but a thunderous conversation of fear happening entirely within her own mind. You're sitting with her, You've had a moment of connection or perhaps a minor disagreement, and suddenly she goes quiet. She withdraws. The energy shifts and you're left in a vacuum, interpreting that silence as anger, indifference, or a personal punishment. You feel the urge to fill the void, to ask what's wrong, to demand an explanation, to fix it. But what you are witnessing is not a blank slate. Inside her, a storm is raging. Her mind is a cacophony of conflicting voices. One part of her is screaming in panic. It's getting too close. I'm losing myself. I need to get out of here. Another part is filled with a deep, aching longing, whispering, please don't. Let me push you away. Please see that I'm scared. Please stay. And a third, critical voice is listing all the reasons why she is a fraud, why she doesn't deserve your love, why she will inevitably mess this up. This internal civil war is so consuming, so all-encompassing, that she has no cognitive resources left for external communication. She is literally paralyzed by the conflict between her biological need for connection and her learned fear of it. This is what is often called an amygdala hijack. The primitive emotional part of her brain has taken over, flooding her system with stress hormones and shutting down the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for language, reason, and emotional regulation. She isn't choosing to give you the silent treatment. She is in a physiological state of shutdown. She is, for all intents and purposes, emotionally and mentally incapacitated. When you respond to this shutdown with pressure, with questions, with your own anxiety, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire. You are confirming her deepest fear that her internal chaos is too much for anyone to handle, that her needs, in this case, her need for space to regulate, will not be respected. The pathway to connection here is profoundly counterintuitive. It requires you to respect the silence, to see it not as a weapon but as a symptom. Your job in that moment is to de-escalate, not to interrogate. It is to become a non-anxious, steady presence. You might say something like, I can see you need some space to process. I'm here when you're ready to talk. And then, crucially, you must give her that space without resentment. You must manage your own story about what her silence means. By doing this, you are doing two transformative things. First, you are giving her nervous system the time it needs to calm down, to come out of fight or flight mode. Second, and more importantly, you are teaching her that her need for space is acceptable and will be honored. You are showing her that. The relationship is strong enough to withstand pauses. That connection can be resumed after a break. Over time, as she learns that her silence will not be met with punishment or abandonment, the duration and intensity of these shutdowns can diminish. The silence can transform from a fortress of fear into a peaceful garden where she can go to collect herself, secure in the knowledge that when she returns, you will still be there. Now, let's unlock the fourth secret, one that can feel incredibly personal and painful. Her criticism and nitpicking are not about your flaws, but a desperate, misguided strategy to create emotional distance before she gets too close and gets hurt. This is a tough one to swallow because when she points out that you left a dish in the sink, or that you were 5 minutes late, or that you said the wrong thing, it feels like a direct attack. Your ego wants to defend itself. You want to argue the facts, to explain yourself, to show her she's wrong. But if you do that, you are missing the entire point. You are playing a game of chess while she is fighting a psychological war for survival. Think of it like this. Intimacy is building. Things are going well. You're feeling closer. And on a subconscious level, she is feeling it too. And that feeling of closeness, for someone with an avoidant attachment style, triggers an alarm bell. Vulnerability is rising, and with it the terrifying prospect of being seen, known, and ultimately hurt. Her primitive brain goes into overdrive. Danger. Danger. Emotional enmeshment detected. Deploy countermeasures. And one of the most effective countermeasures is to find a flaw in you. Because if she can focus on something you did wrong, a way in which you are imperfect, then she can create a mental and emotional wedge between you. She can tell herself, see, he's not perfect, he's not the one. I don't need to be so vulnerable with him. I can pull back now, and it will be justified. The criticism is not about the dish. The dish is just a convenient hook to hang her anxiety on. It's a proxy for the real unspeakable fear. If I let myself love you completely and you leave or disappoint me, it will destroy me. So she preemptively creates a reason to disengage. She sabotages the connection to maintain what feels like a safe distance. Understanding this changes everything. It means you don't have to win the argument about the dish. In fact, you should not even engage on that battlefield. When the criticism comes, your first task is to look past the content, the words she is saying, and tune into the context, the emotional state she is in. Is she feeling overwhelmed by closeness? Is she scared? Instead of getting defensive, you can practice a technique called pacing and leading. First, you pace her by validating the feeling behind the criticism, not the criticism itself. You might say, "It seems like you're really frustrated right now," or "I can hear that something is really bothering you." This validation de-escalates her emotional charge. It shows her that you are listening to her heart, not just her words. Then, and only then, can you lead. You can gently bring the conversation to the real issue. "I want to understand what's going on. Is there something bigger behind this? Because I'm feeling a bit of a distance between us, and I care too much about us to let that sit." This approach calls out the meta-communication, the hidden conversation about the relationship that is happening beneath the surface-level bickering. It requires immense emotional strength on your part to not take the bait. But when you can do this, you are effectively disarming her primary sabotage mechanism. You are showing her that her attempts to push you away with criticism will not work. Instead, they will be met with curiosity and a desire for deeper connection. Over time, as she feels safer, the need to employ this defense mechanism will fade, because the fear that drives it will be slowly, consistently, and lovingly proven false. The fifth secret is a profound paradox that lies at the very heart of the avoidant dilemma. Her fear of engulfment is not a desire to be alone forever, but a terrifying panic that in a relationship, her own identity, her very self, will be erased and consumed. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of an avoidant woman's experience. People often think she doesn't want a relationship when the truth is she desperately wants love, but she is terrified that the price of admission is her own soul. This fear is often rooted in a childhood where her emotional boundaries were violated. Perhaps a parent was enmeshed, treating her as an extension of themselves, not allowing her to have her own separate feelings, thoughts, or desires. Her individuality was seen as a threat or a betrayal. Love was conditional on her conforming, on being who her parent needed her to be. As a result, she developed a core belief: relationships mean loss of self. To be loved is to be consumed. So when she is in a partnership, normal acts of intimacy can feel like existential threats. Your desire to spend time together can feel like a demand that she abandon her own interests. Your expressions of love can feel like chains. Your suggestions can feel like commands. She is hyper-vigilant for any sign that her autonomy is being compromised. This is why she might pull away after a particularly intimate weekend. This is why she might react strongly to a simple question like, "What are you doing later?" She hears it as, "You need to report your whereabouts to me." It's not about you, it's about the ghost of the parent or caregiver who never saw her as a separate person. Your task in the face of this engulfment fear is to become a champion of her individuality. You must actively and vocally support her having a life outside of you. Encourage her to see her friends, celebrate her hobbies and passions, take genuine interest in her thoughts and opinions, especially when they differ from your own. When she expresses a need for space, frame it not as a rejection of you, but as a healthy act of self-care that you admire. You must constantly reinforce the message, through your actions more than your words, that I love you and I love your separateness. My goal is not to merge with you, but to partner with you, two whole individuals choosing to walk side by side. You need to prove to her that your love is not a cage, but a wide-open sky in which she is free to fly. This means you must also have a strong, vibrant identity of your own. If you are overly dependent on her for your happiness and sense of self, you will inadvertently trigger her engulfment fear because she will feel the weight of your entire emotional world on her shoulders. By being a whole person yourself, with your own friends, interests, and purpose, you model the very independence you are encouraging in her, and you make the relationship feel like a choice, not a prison. This is a long-term reprogramming of a deep-seated terror. There will be times when she misinterprets your love as control. In those moments, patience and clarification are key. I'm not trying to control you, I'm just sharing my feeling. You are always free to make your own choice. This consistent reinforcement of her autonomy is the antidote to the poison of engulfment. It is how you convince the deepest part of her that with you she can finally have both the connection she craves and the selfhood she has fought her entire life to protect. The sixth secret is a crucial piece of the puzzle, one that provides the context for all the others. Her past is not just a memory, it is a living, breathing blueprint that dictates her present reactions, a ghost in the machine of your relationship. You are not just in a relationship with the woman standing in front of you today. You are in a relationship with every version of her that has ever existed. The hurt little girl, the betrayed teenager, the young woman who learned to build walls as a means of survival. Her nervous system is not reacting to you in the present moment. It is reacting to the patterns of the past that you, often completely innocently, have come to represent. This is what psychologists call a transference. You say something in a certain tone, and she hears the voice of her critical father. You offer help, and she feels the smothering presence of her enmeshed mother. You ask for closeness, and she feels the impending abandonment of a caregiver who is emotionally unavailable. Her brain is a brilliant pattern-matching machine, and has learned that certain cues predict pain. So when it detects those cues in you, it sounds the alarm and activates the old survival strategies. Run, hide, defend, shut down. Understanding this is the key to depersonalizing her behavior and accessing a deep, unwavering compassion. It allows you to see that her reactions are not a reflection of your value as a partner, but a testament to the pain she has endured. She is trapped in a time loop, constantly fighting battles that were over long ago, but which her body and mind remember as if they were happening right now. Your role in healing this is to become a corrective emotional experience. You have the power, through your consistent, predictable, and loving responses, to prove her old blueprint wrong. Every time she expects you to be critical and you respond with curiosity, you are erasing a line from that old script. Every time she expects you to abandon her when she pulls away and you respond with steady presence, you are building a new neural pathway. Every time she expects her needs to be dismissed and you listen with empathy, you are teaching her that the past does not have to equal the future. This does not mean you become a doormat or a therapist. It means you become a conscious, intentional partner who understands that you are interacting with a deep historical wound. When she is triggered, instead of asking, "Why is she doing this to me?" you can learn to ask, what part of her past is being activated right now? What old pain is this reminding her of? This shift in perspective is everything. It transforms frustration into compassion and conflict into an opportunity for healing. You can even learn to gently name the pattern. After a conflict has de-escalated, you might say, "I noticed when I said X, you seemed to really shut down. It made me wonder if that reminded you of a time when you felt criticized or unheard in the past." This kind of comment, offered without accusation, can help bring the ghost out of the shadows and into the light where it can be seen, understood, and ultimately laid to rest. By honoring her past, you free her to live more fully in the present with you. And now we arrive at the seventh secret, the most powerful and transformative of them all. The one that can change the entire game if you have the courage to embrace it. Her distance is a profound, albeit silent, call for love. It is a test she doesn't even know she's administering, a plea for someone to see the pain behind the walls and to care enough to not just knock, but to patiently, consistently, and faithfully wait at the gate. Every retreat, every moment of silence, every critical remark, every burst of hyper-independence is, at its core, a desperate cry from a heart that learned long ago that needing love was dangerous. It is the ultimate paradox. She pushes away the very thing she wants most because the wanting itself is terrifying. The test is this: will you leave me like the others did? Will you confirm my deepest fear that I am unlovable? Or are you different? Will you see me, the real, scared, wounded me behind this fortress? And will you stay? When you react to her distance with panic, frustration, or your own withdrawal, you fail the test. You confirm her worst fears. But when you can learn to see her distance not as a problem, but as a communication, as a symptom of her fear, you can change the entire dynamic. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to become the one person in her life who does not react to the surface-level behavior, but who responds to the hidden need. This requires a level of emotional mastery that is rarely demanded in relationships. It requires you to find an unshakable core of security within yourself. You must know your own worth so deeply that her temporary retreats do not shake your foundation. You must be able to hold a space of love and patience even when you are receiving nothing in return. This is not about being a martyr. It is about being a leader. You are leading the relationship out of the cycle of pursuit and withdrawal and into a new territory of secure attachment. You are saying, through your energy and your actions, your fear does not scare me. Your walls do not intimidate me. I see the beautiful, valuable person you are in there, and I am not going anywhere. This is how you pass the test. Not by grand gestures, but by 1,000 small moments of consistency, patience, and unwavering regard. It is in the way you don't get angry when she needs a night to herself. It is in the way you listen when she finally does open up without trying to fix her. It is in the way you reassure her of your care, not with suffocating intensity, but with a calm, steady presence. When she realizes on a subconscious level that you are not going to be triggered by her defenses, that you are not going to abandon her when she is at her most difficult, something miraculous begins to happen. The walls, which were built for a war that is now over, start to become unnecessary. The drawbridge begins to lower, not with a dramatic crash, but with a slow, tentative creak. She will begin to test the waters of vulnerability in small ways, and when she finds you there, ready to receive her with love and not with a demand for more, trust is built. This is the ultimate healing. You are not just building a better relationship. You are participating in the redemption of a soul. You are giving her the greatest gift one human can give another, the experience of being truly seen, truly known, and chosen anyway. And in that process, you will not only transform her life, you will forge a connection of such depth, resilience, and profound love that it will transform your own. Today, we have journeyed together into the heart of one of the most complex and often misunderstood dynamics in relationships, the world of the avoidant woman. We have moved beyond the surface-level frustration and pain to uncover the 7 profound secrets that her behavior truly reveals. This journey was never about placing blame or creating a list of pathologies. It was about building a bridge of radical understanding, a bridge made from the materials of empathy, patience, and a deep, unwavering compassion for the human heart's incredible capacity to protect itself from pain. We began by shattering the most common and painful misconception that her distance is a personal rejection of you. We learned that it is, in fact, a sophisticated defense system, a fortress erected not against you, but against the ghosts of past rejections and betrayals. Her retreat is a preemptive strike against a hurt she is certain will come if she lets her guard down, a hurt that was imprinted upon her long before you entered the picture. To understand this is to stop taking her behavior personally and to start seeing the wounded history that drives it. We then decoded the masquerade of her fierce independence, recognizing it not as a statement of not needing you, but as the hard-won survival strategy of a person who learned that relying on others leads only to disappointment. We peered into the thunderous silence that is not emptiness, but an internal civil war between her longing for connection and her terror of it. We reframed her criticism and nitpicking, seeing it for what it truly is, a desperate, flawed sabotage mechanism designed to create emotional distance when intimacy feels too threatening and consuming. We confronted the core paradox of her fear of engulfment, the terrifying belief that love necessitates the erasure of self. We learned that her past is not a faded photograph, but an active, living blueprint that dictates her present-day reactions, casting the shadows of old figures onto your present relationship. And finally, we arrived at the most transformative secret of all, that every ounce of her distance, every test, every push and pull is ultimately a silent, desperate, and profound call for love. Armed with this knowledge, you are now empowered. You are no longer a helpless victim of a confusing pattern. You are an active participant who can change the dance. You now have the tools to see beyond the behavior and respond to the hidden need. You understand that your role is not to break down her walls, but to create an environment of such safety, consistency, and respect for her autonomy that the walls themselves begin to feel obsolete. Your steady, non-anxious presence becomes the corrective experience that can, over time, heal the wounds of a lifetime. This path is not for the faint of heart. It will demand from you a level of emotional strength, self-awareness, and patience that you may not have known you possessed. There will be days of frustration and moments of doubt, but if you can commit to this path, if you can lead with love when you are met with fear, and with presence when you are met with retreat, you be participating in something far greater than just saving a relationship. You will be offering a gift of profound healing, and in doing so, you will not only unlock the heart of the woman you love, but you will also discover a depth of strength and capacity for love within yourself that will elevate every aspect of your life. The journey begins with a single conscious choice to see the fortress not as an obstacle, but as an invitation to prove that your love is the one that is finally safe enough to let inside. Thank you. Thank you for having the courage to seek understanding, for having the strength to look deeper, and for having the love in your heart to want to create a different future. This is how we change the world, one relationship, one breakthrough, one healed heart at a time. Go out and create the connection you deserve. I believe in you. Goodbye for now.